recording video. And I got my hat off, my beret off. Ugh. Found some batteries, luckily, for this thing. Seems to drain a lot more when it's not being used. Not usually the case. Very upsetting. Alright. So it's episode 23. This is Black Jester, Galak Budai, Jack Blister, Jack Blister, Black Jester matters. Fuck, I'm a retard. The definition, held back, very much held back. AI group learning disabled, I can use that, can't I? Just check those off. I'm so furious. Thing cut off when I was just done, but yeah, anyway, I'd be remiss if I don't mention MindFreedom. MindFreedom is a very important thing. I'm a MindFreedom activist. I oppose forced psychiatric treatment. If you have any stories about that sort of thing, to bring it to my attention, at me or whatever. Try to convince me to mention it. I'm a Vancouver affiliate to MindFreedom, and I'm an activist against like most force. This is good news. This guy got removed from involuntary shock therapy because of the SHIELD program. Something I'm involved on and stuff like that. So it's great that they're putting out some great efforts, and it's working out. Let's go here. You can find an affiliate or sponsor in your area by going here. So you can see a lot in Canada. There I am. The West Coast, Brian Cormack, Nelson. All the way down here to United Kingdom, and state by state. Anyway, it's a very good organization to be part of. So I'd be remiss not to mention this, and mentioned that free thought also has to do with not getting shock therapy. Yeah, and granted, there are some lefties in this that would probably allow right-wingers to get shock therapy and stuff like that. They're always going to be like that. But generally speaking, this is about fighting government force into your synapses and shit like that. Big pharma trying to control your mind and all that. There's also unlicensed voice that I started a profile on recently. Shout out to BPS for mentioning this, and I've been posting a bit. As you can see, the Black Jester, it'll be on the description, of course, with the other social media mentions. Yeah, something I did from my Switch. Finally, some social justice on the fire. Save that to my Pinterest. use as another cover for the save, damn it. There it is. It's there too now. Well, that's my friend Alicia Beeler in Washington. She's running for the second 26th legislative district for the state house in Washington. Should check her out, see what she believes in, see if you agree with her. Stuff like that. She looks like independent, but I mean, she's sort of MAGA and stuff like that in the past. And she's a bit of a liberty-minded girl. I mean, maybe a little too conservative on drugs. I don't know. Although statewide, I don't know what I do about that. But certainly not a half-assed method of any kind, illegal kind anywhere. It's sort of something that has to be either fully legal or not at all. Half-assed stuff just leaves bureaucrats more options. Yeah. So the environment's hitting the news, and yeah, I gotta tell you, from a perspective that's known from Vancouverites, and in 1999, Vancouver, there was a big issue with this yellow haze, and the yellow haze is gone. And there was no real government action, or no consistent government action out there that led to this. It was an actual individual. You know, there is a mirror there, and I probably should have changed the direction of that thing. It's weird. Some odd fireside chat. Anyway, got Thornburg out there preaching it's not enough to plant trees in Africa. Are they planting trees in Africa? Are they really? I mean, that's something I haven't heard of. Does it matter if, I mean, is it bad that they plant trees? But, I mean, they say the CO2 levels rise, but the yellow haze is gone, and they were complete with this yellow haze in 1999, municipal politics in Vancouver. You can see it. It was true. It was there. I mean, they're calling it it was a great travesty when it came to, it was a great environmental travesty. The Green Party was at it, the Cope Party, the Socialists were at it, and it's gone now. I guess Socialists must be panicking because there's signs that the environment's actually getting better without their help. And that's the thing, there was no consistent government action. It just people, individuals, even businesses just acted as decent individuals, and things just worked out. And it just worked fine. That's, I mean, I don't see things are, and the whole, do we need less CO2? Should we just throw out the catalytic converter, or just let SF monoxide in the air? The CO is the bad thing. And then when they created a catalytic converter, which is what they put in the cars, that creates the CO2, they made a poison into plant food. You probably don't want to be trapped in a room with too much CO2, but out in the air, it's feeding all sorts of plants. It's creating more greenery and stuff like that. And that probably had more to do with, that old bald patches on the trees and stuff like that. The bald patches on the mountains and stuff, those have been gone. Those are gone. And the trees are doing relatively well. Sans a few fires and stuff like that. But, if you cut strips of old growth and replant, it should lessen the fires quite a bit. Not to mention making sure there aren't too many dry leaves lying around. But yeah, but there are a lot of natural forces involved, and people, and it hasn't. It's just not that bad. I mean, she's saying there's this idea that somehow, well, the idea of putting responsibility. It was a speech she was doing, placating responsibility, putting responsibility onto somebody else because of your own follies. And isn't that what she's doing for China and India? Still no mention of China and India. China and India seem to be saints in the environmental world, according to a daft Swedish broad. I think I can technically call her a broad because she's a year away from voting. And hell, if kids can be transsexual, Thornburg can be called a fucking retard, right? Why don't we just put that straight out, huh? What about this trans kid stuff? If the kids become a new gender by their choice, then someone speaking of their choice that's even older can be called all sorts of horrible, horrible things. I can't imagine anything more horrible than what you see before you, but it's like a real monster they're creating out there. Let's see, the poor kid's gonna be horrified when she realizes they don't need her as a shield anymore. They'll find someone younger. Just like everyone on Epstein's Island. Eventually they're too old and to find the Prince Andrew a new one. Yeah, it's that kind of story. Oh, she's gonna be mortified. She's gonna be absolutely mortified, and she'll be trying to do the occasional tweet as an adult and stuff like that. And she's gonna start realizing, God, I'm gonna have a couple of shields of my own. And there goes that whole don't have children for environmental sake. I guess the environmental movement realizes the folly in that one. If you don't have kids, you won't have any shields to protect you when you're trying to have an opinion that you don't want other people to criticize you for. And that's the big problem. It's child exploitation, basically, yeah. I mean, really, I even find my friend's campaign thing where she has got her whole family there rather tacky. It's just keep the kids out of it at least. I mean, really, family shots aren't necessary. I really don't give a crap. Although it's funny that comes up the environment and stuff. When I was running for parliament, I was up against this socialist NDPer, and she was talking about her kid talking about polar bears, and I thought, fuck the polar bear. I mean, really, she doesn't teach her kid that polar bear is a nasty, monstrous creature. And, it's an apex predator, but so are we. I mean, and a lot of animals must be confused as fuck when we protect them because they know what we are. I mean, they must be really, it's like, I mean, the dogs and stuff might understand what we get along because we have similar vile tastes, I suppose. But bunny rabbits must look at us and go, God, why aren't you eating me? I mean, come on. What's wrong with me? I know what you are. You eat us. It'd be so easy for you to do this to me. I mean, all the other ones do it, and you can eat them too. It's like that. The dinosaur-like ones, like crocodiles and stuff, certainly aren't confused, but yeah, maybe they're confused too, or maybe they figured, well, these guys are saps. That's crazy. The world wouldn't be lost without polar bears, or the orcas would still be slamming their tails, and I'd rather they'd be slamming their tails at the seals anyway. So, you know, I mean, there's less room for there's more water, less room for the polar bear, so there's more room for more killer whales. So they have more killer whales, so things are just going to even out. I mean, and killer whales are a little more discerning as far as apex predators in that sense, and kind of like us, as far as that goes. And if they're like other dolphins, like us, they have their rapey fellows too. Actually, dolphins are really nasty fuckers. They're so nasty they scare sharks. Can you imagine how nasty you have to be in the animal kingdom to scare sharks? I don't think we scare sharks. They're not even. They're more like apex sexual predators too. And they don't eat what they kill in every sense too. Like the porpoises and stuff like that in the ocean. Jesus freaking Christ. Save the dolphins. Who's going to save the porpoise from the dolphin? They don't eat it. They just kill it. I mean, they can't eat it. They're thugs. They're fucking thugs. I don't know. I mean, the tuna industry might have had a point at one point. So yeah, I mean, so I mean, but so Markle is black. Is that by English standards? I mean, are they kind of? I mean, it's like what she like a septaroon or octoroon or something. She's got a little She's got like Crowder level sub-Saharan or something. Uh, when did that come out? I mean, there was some sort of like Mexican thing about her or something, but I don't think she was like that. But I guess I don't think about that shit a lot anyway. More concerned with my own DNA and stuff like that. And as far as I understand, everyone's grouped up in haplogroups, not race. I don't even know. Was it 23andMe or something? I don't do that. I do family tree DNA, and I mean that's quite bizarre as it is. But it'll only break down what countries most of your last 6 generation connected relative members are that are participating in the thing, and participation is part of that. So I mean, if one company only has got a certain amount of people, a certain amount of things, and you're only going to get a certain percentage of markers in their research of their sampling. I don't think you could really get race out of a DNA sample from what I've seen. I mean, you could, or even the partials. I mean, you can find certain aspects like some USA related haplotype marker have similarities to Native Americans, and they're listed as a special group within that area. But I couldn't find a percentage. I mean, there are a lot in Central America and stuff like that too, and it's really hard to know what the exact origin of all of that is, and you can't really the Y gene itself, the father generations, those go a certain way, and you can't really get Y DNA out of bone. So I mean, they could find X DNA in cheddar man, which is my oldest female ancestor, apparently. So does that make me part black? It's a black mummy found in England. It's kind of a theory of mine that originally the Africans were in Europe, and the ancient ones, the Mesolithic, and that Albion round table was all black knights, literally black knights. Fuck, that would piss off racists so much. It's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek comment. How dare you? Well, I mean, what do you explain that freaking mummy for? I mean, you can find it from mummies like that and mummifications like that. I mean, you probably find maybe some protein samples and stuff like that in jars, mummification jars, and Tut's tomb and stuff like that, if they'd let you get it. That might have some Y gene stuff in it, but if it's that well preserved, as they say. Yeah, mostly ancient bones and stuff will just find X factors. So I mean, really, to even identify what part of what race you are, or in our modern era, it's pretty difficult. I wouldn't. I would. I would really be careful on whether or not you confess to anything in jail. If confess to anything based on the what they tell you in a confession in a room where they're trying to get your confession as a suspect with the cops. If they tell you the DNA says this and that, I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy it's that cut and dry. Tell them you want a trial. Fuck them. But don't volunteer it either. That's why I love family tree. I mean, 23andMe. Why would anyone trust a company that close to Google with their fucking DNA? And they weren't really impressive to me. Family tree DNA, at least, they have protections against cops meddling in your stuff, and they're quite upfront about it. And you can opt into letting the cops look in your stuff, but fuck no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't opt into it. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, back to the whole thing. So I kind of tread it off a bit, but it's kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, I mean, as the Molyneux thing, stuff like that, it's like he bases things on race, on studies of very archaic DNA knowledge, and I mean, certain haplogroups would maybe have people in certain haplos may have certain skills and certain others, and may have another skills, and who knows? It's hard to say. I mean, we must have some sort of innate traits that come from our forebears, but I wouldn't say it would actually have anything to do with complexion at all, or fatness of lips, or ass, or whatever. Eye shape. I mean, that's a whole other territory. I might suggest certain blood is good to have if you want a better looking child, I guess. I don't know. Superficialities? Might be. Certain successes can come from certain superficialities. So I guess with certain superficialities, I'm not talking about racial superficialities. I mean, good looks, bad looks, and ugly, decent voice, bad voice, that sort of thing. You have Trent Tulsi suing Hillary. Well, good for her, I guess. Although I would caution anyone against suing, because it's, as Voltaire would say, you put yourself and your whole reputation at risk when you sue people. But Russian probe, really. I mean, I don't think she'll win either because, I mean, she'd have to convince people would actually believe it that weren't ready to believe it in the first place. And Hillary was already being fed that to herself. So, I mean, the original source of it was probably further down the line than Hillary's stupid mouth. Use drinking water widely contaminated with forever chemicals. Stuff I have doubts about too. I mean, there's fluoride in a tap water tub, so Miami, Philadelphia, New Orleans. How that figures. It's so sad that figures. Watchdog, Philadelphia, Philly. Yeah, we really have to worry about the environment that practically heals itself, but we're not thinking too well about how the drinking water's coming, huh? That's going leftist government. Keep that going. You'll poison all your supporters. What happened to rural America? Well, it's still there. It's just hard to find on the road. And men that are somewhat like bats are chasing you when a certain song shows up on the radio. Mr. Breck, is that you? Yeah. So much tyranny in the world. Boogaloo. Boogaloo's alt-right. Second American Civil War. Second American Boogaloo. RT op-ed. Of course, it's RT. For a group of radicals. How many times are they going to fall for all this crap? I mean, really, fall for such horse shit. I really need to. Anyone ever really understood what when I first heard the term alt-right, I saw this list of people, and none of them looked like they agreed on anything. Not on everything, anyway. And that seems ridiculous. I'm not sure what most things mean when people say it, and usually you just go, well, that's bullshit. Which is really bad, because when someone calls someone a racist and they're right, what happens? When someone says they're Nazi and they're right, what happens? You're going to want to dismiss it right away. And, you know, these idiots act like so many people are Nazis that it's big numbers. Like, they're encouraging people to join. They're trying to say, hey, look, our enrollment's growing. You got to catch up. Join us. They make it sound like it's a goddamn trend to be a racist white supremacist. They're actually trying to trend it like that way. It's ridiculous. "28 years in prison after being cleared of murder. It's the importance of making sure due process is as good as possible. Cannot they understate too much the due process situation. That crazy shit. This things have gotten worse because of the Patriot Act and things like that. People are just these lousy searches. That whole frisk and search thing that Bloomberg loved so much. Yeah, it's typical that Bloomberg would quit being a Republican just after that, because I guess the Republican Party wasn't too much on to the frisk thing as much as George Bush was, and his other friends there. And Bloomberg just thought, well, I'll go where they don't like. I'll go to a new party that doesn't like due process if they're not going to get shit from this. But I became a Democrat. Due process, man. It's a classic liberal concept. And due process is very necessary. You don't just stop and frisk. You have to show that there's a possibility of a... And that's where red flag laws will come in. And red flag laws will not be for gun control of Caucasians. Red flag laws will end up in the minority communities, and people will be stopped and frisked and their houses will, property and land and houses will be searched, and rental homes will be searched for guns, whether they have them or not, because they'll be red flagged. And someone will say, well, I think I saw a gun, and they'll go, okay, we'll be right there. And they will, it'll be in, right now, I mean, if more blacks are going to vote for Trump and stuff, they're going to go full Jim Crow on everybody. They're gonna they'll use a red flag law on the way to the voting booth and stuff like that. I mean, it's like it's a brave new world, man. Just gotta make you feel comfortable, right? So maybe they're right. Racism's on the rise, and the people who are saying this knew about it ahead of time. It was their plan. It was the left's plan. No, it's like the right is actually completely immune to anything, but largely the right is like chaining themselves outside of abortion clinics to blowing up abortion clinics and things like that on the moral level of, well, I guess the sexual morality factor, and the pro-life factor and stuff like that. Being so crazy about pro-life that they kill people. It's like being so crazy about anti-racism that you commit racist acts. Sort of falls in the same category. Demand abstinence and fuck your daughter, demand porn end and be caught in child porn, things like that. Things like that, yeah. Of course, when it comes to children, right and left, it's doesn't quite matter, does it? Epstein and the law for equal opportunity, voices for choices. New video series from MindFreedom about the fight for human rights and mental health. How's that insane? Did I want to flip that? How's an insane government going to judge people's minds? I mean, laws are insane. The mental health system's insane. And they're judging the mental state of people. Imagine you got there's a Car 87 program, and they send out police cars to detain people and have them tossed on an ambulance and sent away based on, I guess, something similar to a red flag law, where they decide, either the cop decides or a psychologist with the cop decides. If they can't find one, the cop still decides, and maybe a judge will decide. So it depends where you are. Some places more liberal than others about their authority. I guess it's like state liberalism versus individualist liberalism. I guess that's the whole thing, isn't it? you're liberal about what the state, you want the state to have liberties, or you want individuals to have liberties. Um, yeah, I mean, the whole idea that they, they, they can predict that you would be a harm to yourself or others. You think about that. If you say that you know someone can be a harm to themselves or others, or might be a harm to themselves or others, you are saying something that would be considered insane. And that would be that you know the future, that you rubbed your crystal ball, and you know they're going to self-harm, or you know they're going to hurt someone else. And self-harm, that's their own business. You can't protect people from themselves. You just end up wasting a lot of money doing that. People are going to slit their wrists some way or the other. They're going to kill themselves some way or the other. They'll smack their head really hard into a wall. All sorts of things. You can't... Billie Holiday had the best line, and she took it into practice, unfortunately. But I've hurt nobody but myself, and that's my business. She OD'd, of course, but still, that was her prerogative. I'm not suggesting it's a good thing to suicide. No, it's not a good thing, but is it my business to stop someone who might? I mean, you don't know they're going to do, you can't know emphatically that they're going to do something like that until they do something like that, and that's that. Largely, if they survive the suicide, it's usually punishment enough. If they don't figure things out are bad, then they'll never will. You can't force help either. And that's the fact. You can try to convince people it's worth living. You can try to help people out and all that other stuff. But you can be charitable with your love and your money and all that. But you can't protect people from themselves. And you can cause a lot of great harm if you're wrong. If you're wrong, you cause even more great harm. And what could happen from there? I mean, people will probably get worse off. And the Joker has that theme too. He's forced into psychiatric treatment first. That's what happens. He's forced into the pills. He gets used to the pills. He's taken off the pills, and then he realizes what a shit life he's got and everything else. And he stops. He's prevented from being able to handle the way life kicks you in the ass every day. And that can really fuck with you worse than being a fucking madman. In fact, the man's only truly free when he's lost it completely. Hit that wall. Even though everyone else is in turmoil. But, since it's a pretty good movie, clearly, that guy should stay away from comedies. Didn't like him. Did not like hangover movies. They were not funny. And I didn't like Mike Tyson. He's still a convicted rapist. You might say that it was you can say all sorts of things about the trial. He didn't appeal. It wasn't appealed successfully by anyone, as far as I know. And the only reason he got released is because he praised Allah once, and now he doesn't seem to be praising Allah anymore. I don't care for that shit, man. It's he was still a convicted rapist, and he didn't do a full time in jail. So the idea that the fact that another actor who didn't do that could have gotten a job if he didn't get the job, it's disgraceful. R.I.P. to Terry Jones. I love Monty Python. And I guess there are only two of them left. 77 seems young. Of course, my family were all usually over 80 before we're dead. Quite over 80. My family actually goes over that people with the name Budai seem to go over the general average lifespan, which is somewhere in the 70s, like him. Surged after communism ended. Go figure. Communism ended in Hungary anyway. Well, to a certain threshold anyway. I might suggest Fidesz is still a little pink, but to a libertarian point of view, but alright. Still not terrible. Yeah, so, well, so we got that stuff, and I'm just drowning here. I try not to. I should be looking at the clock on this. I'm just. I should look at my Gab thing, but I think it's something Oh yeah, this whole thing. This is an interesting thing. Not one libertarian was mentioned in the Toronto Star list that I saw. I was looking at BC mostly, but I'm guessing it's the same everywhere else. Now, me and Keith Kumar were the highest vote catchers in the Libertarian Party in that election. And I certainly wasn't mentioned, and two people I defeated were mentioned. Marcus and Jameson, or at least left behind, the communist and Marxist-Leninist. And I wasn't mentioned. Now, John Clark wasn't mentioned, and I also checked other ones. Others weren't mentioned. There were members of the BC Libertarian Party who ran as PPC members who were mentioned, and that's really funny. I guess if they delved deeper into provincial party memberships, more people would have been left off. But it seems the media truly hates libertarians. It's not conservatives. Conservatives even have their own press. It's libertarians they hate. It's any type of liberty they hate. That's what they hate about Trump. It's deregulation. It's things like that. And deregulation doesn't even go too far. It's what libertarians want. But he's close enough to be a problem. Probably why some people still don't want to be called a libertarian, because the press and everything is against them and that sort of thing. And when I talk about marginalized group, talk about libertarians. And I guess the Irish. Oh yeah, the Irish. They've actually really harmed no one in history, as far as I understand. But they've always been slaves and colonization victims and everything. It's unfathomable. Even some some groups like the Incans and stuff like that were slavers and colonizers and stuff like that. But they never give props to the Irish. Even slaves in North America, building railroads and stuff like that. They don't complain much, though, do they? But yeah, I even always kind of thought that Pat Buchanan got it largely because he got in trouble still because he was Irish and that stuff. Yeah, I'm glad to talk about any topic you want. I'm trying to. I don't come up with a script or anything or a plan. I just go on, decide to do it, discuss it. Cartoon there, by the way, available on the Teespring shirts. If you look down on the description, that cartoon is Soy Boy, and he's saying he's alerting to a social justice person that the virtue signal is being shown. I'm using illustration of mine. Satire cartoon or editorial cartoon is editorial. I mean, we could probably talk day and night about the media being right wing or left wing, but really, when it goes down to it, they're all united against libertarians, and that's usually the fact. I mean, you don't hear. I mean, how many times do you hear about the libertarian candidates versus the normal candidate? The usual. It's not that their ideas are bad or anything. I mean, it's I'm biased, of course, but I mean, their ideas are better. They're more consistent. They're less at risk to suffering from the. They're more immune to a lot of things too, and it's kind of hard to. I mean, you can catch them screwing somebody, but they've already said you're free to do it, right? Things like that. And that's how things are. Anyway, that's an outrage. I mean, they call themselves a news media, and they intentionally took libertarian names out of the article. I found that by accident, looking for something else. Oddly enough, I wasn't even looking for myself or that election. I know. I was looking up Lauren Southern's vote count because it was kind of interesting what that compared to. She did horrifyingly bad considering all the press she got. I don't know how the hell she got that bad. I mean, she had a following on YouTube, and she did worse than I did, actually. In a riding that was a lot less left as well. Although my libertarian views did resonate rather well with the people I talked to in this riding. I just didn't get into the debates as much, and it was all, well, the press hates libertarians. Unless, of course, there's a lot of smear information, like if, let's say, they were on Rebel Media or something in the past. But even that smear information is better than a radio silence. I mean, shit. I don't care. Lie. If you're going to lie about me, as long as I can say you're a liar. What do I care? You can say I was on Epstein Island. I don't care. Whatever you want, man. I'm not afraid of the lie. I don't fear lies. The more absurd, the more amusing. And it might get me to write a joke or two, too. So maybe they don't want the inspired joke fodder. Anyway, this has gone on long enough. This is Black Chester Matters, episode 23. I'm going to think of the titles soon.